Pause for a moment and imagine that the life you're living right now is just level 1 of a much bigger game. What you can see and touch is only the first of 7 stages of consciousness. Only the highest level. Stage 7, God Mode, holds the kind of inner freedom that makes you steady, hard to manipulate, and fully at home in your own reality. The journey there starts at Stage 1, the physical prison. This is where most of humanity lives. At this stage, you believe you are just a body in a material universe. Life revolves around paying bills, staying safe, building comfort, and squeezing in a little pleasure when there's time. Death feels like the end of the story, and any thought that reality might have deeper layers gets buried under the next notification or responsibility. The trap of Stage 1 is simple. You're walking through the most profound mystery in existence and treating it like a to-do list. You move through an invisible ocean of energy, frequency, and connection, but feel numb to it, like being deaf in a world full of music. You don't feel the field of consciousness that links you to every living thing. Your thoughts and emotions seem private, when in truth, each one radiates outward into that field and quietly shapes the world around you. You've probably had flashes of something more. A gut feeling that turned out to be right, a moment of stillness where time seemed to slow down, a random insight that solved a problem you'd been fighting with for weeks. At Stage 1, those moments get labeled as coincidence, not guidance, and underneath it all sits a painful story that you are a random accident in a cold universe, here to grind, hustle, and hope for a little comfort before the lights go out. That story is reinforced by the culture around you. From childhood, you're trained to sit still, follow instructions, memorize information, and prepare for a job. The whole system is built around survival and consumption. Earn, spend, repeat. You're kept just busy, stressed, and entertained enough that you rarely stop long enough to ask, is this really all there is? This prison doesn't need bars. It's made of assumptions about what is real and what is possible. But the moment you begin to question those assumptions, something cracks. The walls of Stage 1 start to turn transparent. You realize they were never solid. They were just the edges of your perception. And that's when the twist appears. The physical world itself is not your enemy. It's an advanced training ground for consciousness. Physical reality is the hardest mode of creation. Things are dense and slow here. Actions have consequences. Growth takes time. You can't just think something and have it appear, which means that when you learn to create consciously in this realm, you've mastered the heaviest level of existence. Your body is not a cage. It's a miracle. Billions of cells cooperate to turn sunlight, air, food, and minerals into the experience of being alive. The atoms that make up your body are ancient. Once part of stars, oceans, mountains, and other life forms. For a brief moment, they've gathered in the shape called you. You are not separate from the universe. You are the universe looking out through a pair of human eyes. As you move beyond Stage 1, you don't leave the physical world behind. You start to see the layers beneath it. That's Stage 2, the Duality Awakening. Here you begin to notice patterns and synchronicities that feel too precise to be random. You're drawn to symbols, sacred geometry, and hidden meaning. You see how light and dark, joy and sorrow, order and chaos all define each other. To understand why duality exists, imagine the very beginning. Before time, space, or matter, there was only unity, one infinite field of consciousness, whole and undivided. But pure unity can't experience itself. Without contrast, there is no way to know I am. So consciousness expressed itself as opposites, not as enemies but as mirrors, positive and negative, active and receptive, expansion and contraction. That tension between opposites creates movement, story, and experience. Duality is how consciousness learns who and what it is. You see this not only in philosophy, but in the structure of reality itself. The same growth patterns appear in seashells, sunflowers, storms, trees, and galaxies. And in your own body and DNA, you are not outside this design. Looking at it from a distance, you are part of it. That is the real shift between stage 1 and stage 2. You stop seeing yourself as a small, separate human trying to survive in a dead universe. You start to recognize yourself as the universe in human form, waking up to its own pattern, and that realization becomes the doorway to every higher stage that follows, up to the level where you finally live as both fully human and fully divine. Every cell in your body holds the full blueprint of who you are. Every atom in you has been here since the beginning of time, recycling through stars, oceans, animals, and other humans before showing up right now as you. Stage 2. Consciousness begins when you really let that sink in. There is an intelligent design behind everything. Patterns, math, timing, connections. None of it is random, but seeing the math and the symbolism is just the first layer. To truly live stage 2, you have to understand how duality is playing out in your actual life, in your emotions, your relationships, your crises, and your breakthroughs. Duality isn't just cosmic poetry or pretty spirals on a seashell. It's the operating system of physical reality, and it's running 24/7 whether you notice it or not. Take hot and cold. They feel like total opposites, but they're really the same thing. Molecular movement. Fast movement feels like heat. Slow movement feels like cold. There's no hard line where one suddenly becomes the other. It's a spectrum. That's how almost everything in your life works. What looks like either or is usually more or less of the same underlying energy. The same is true of masculine and feminine. Our culture often treats them like fixed boxes. This is male, that is female. Older wisdom traditions saw it differently. Both energies live inside every person. The masculine principle is active, focused, driving forward. The feminine principle is receptive, intuitive, holding space and cycling inward. Real wholeness doesn't come from being more masculine or more feminine. It comes from integrating both. Knowing when to take decisive action and when to slow down and listen. When to analyze and when to feel. When both sides of you are allowed, you access both poles of your power. Even life and death aren't opposites in the way we've been taught. Energy can't be created or destroyed. It only changes form. The atoms that make up your body right now are unimaginably old. They've been supernovas, rivers, mountains, forests, animals, and people long before you arrived. Right now they're arranged as you. When you die, that arrangement dissolves, and the atoms move on to something else. Life doesn't stop. It transforms. What we call death is just a costume change in an ongoing play. Think about order and chaos in your own story. Most of us crave order, control, predictability, routines that feel safe. We resist chaos, job changes, breakups, moves, uncertainty, the feeling that life is falling apart. At early stages of consciousness, chaos looks like the enemy. But if you zoom out, you'll notice your biggest growth spurts didn't come from comfort. They came from disruption. Breakdowns created breakthroughs. The times you thought, "My life is over," were often the doorway into a version of you that couldn't exist before. Order gives structure. Chaos brings evolution. You actually need both. And then there's light and darkness. Maybe the most misunderstood duality of all. We've been conditioned to chase the light and avoid the dark, to be high vibe and escape anything that feels heavy or messy. But darkness isn't evil, it's raw potential. It's the womb, the soil, the space where real transformation happens. Seeds sprout in the dark. Babies grow in the dark. Your deepest insights often come from your darkest nights. not from your happiest moments. Stage 2 asks you to stop treating darkness as the enemy and start seeing it as the place where new versions of you are born. The big secret of Stage 2 is this: the opposites are not at war with each other. They're working together. They define, shape, and give meaning to each other. Without sadness, joy doesn't mean much. Without endings, beginnings don't feel sacred. Once you really feel this, not just as a nice idea, but as a lived truth, you stop trying to pick only one side. You stop trying to be only positive, only light, or only spiritual. You realize that wholeness means including both, not editing half of reality out of your experience. And this is exactly where most people get stuck. That's the Stage 2 trap. Once you start seeing patterns and duality, it feels like you've woken up. You can talk about yin and yang, sacred geometry, synchronicities, masculine and feminine. You can spot asleep behavior in others. The understanding itself becomes addictive. It's easy to slide into judgment. This is good. That's bad. This is spiritual. That's material. I'm awake. They're not. You may pressure yourself to stay positive, to never feel fear, to kill the ego, to be more spiritual and less human. That's not transcendence. That's just a more sophisticated version of the same old either-or thinking. Knowing about duality is not the same thing as moving beyond it. You can spend years reading, watching, and talking about these concepts and still be caught in the same mental patterns. You're still fighting half of yourself, still trying to exile your shadow, still shaming yourself for being human. Stage 2 becomes a comfortable spiritual identity instead of a doorway. The way forward is not to erase duality. You can't. As long as you're in a body, you're playing inside that structure. The path beyond Stage 2 is integration. It's realizing you're here to master both the spiritual and the material, both light and shadow, both order and chaos. It's learning to hold the tension of opposites without splitting yourself in half. And that requires something most people never train: mental sovereignty, the ability to consciously direct your thoughts, your focus, and your inner narrative. Not just believing that thoughts create reality, but actually using your mind on purpose, moment by moment, to shape how you experience everything, including the duality you came here to grow through. If you're drowning in insight but starving for actual change, if you can explain how reality works but still can't consistently create the results you want, you're in Stage 3. This is where most spiritual seekers get stuck for years, reading, watching, learning, collecting theories about energy and manifestation, while their outer life barely moves. Stage 3 is mental sovereignty. It begins the moment you truly grasp that your thoughts are not just private noise in your head. They're a broadcast. Your mind is a transmitter. Reality mirrors your dominant signal back to you. At first, this feels like you've finally found the master key. You discover manifestation, mindset work, neuroplasticity, and it feels like everything is about to change. But then, months or years later, you realize something uncomfortable. You know the language, but your life still looks strangely similar. That's the Stage 3 trap. Knowledge without mastery. Think of the mental plane as the layer where thoughts exist as energy before they harden into physical events. Every thought has a frequency. Your brain is the radio station. Your emotions are the volume knob. If your baseline, unspoken belief is "nothing really works out for me," the mirror of reality has no choice but to reflect that back. Change the frequency. Change the reflection. You've already touched this power. You think about someone and they text you. You feel a gut warning. Ignore it and pay the price. You shift from panic to genuine relief about money, and an unexpected opportunity shows up. Those aren't random. Those are flashes of Stage 3 in action, but flashes aren't mastery. The real issue is simple: 2 minds, 1 conflict. Your conscious mind is the part that reads books, sets goals, writes affirmations, and says, "I'm ready to change." But it only runs a tiny portion of your day. Your subconscious runs the rest. It was programmed early, before you had any filter. So it absorbed your parents' stress, the emotional climate of your home, the unspoken rules about love, safety, and success. So now, as an adult, you're trying to manifest abundance with your conscious mind while the subconscious program is still humming. We never have enough. It's not safe. Success is for other people. The supercomputer underneath always wins. That's why willpower fades, vision boards gather dust, and pretty words lose power. You're trying to rewrite deep code by typing on the surface. Real sovereignty begins when you start watching that automatic stream in real time. The random judgments, the "what if this goes wrong" loops, the quiet self-criticism that pops in without your permission. This is the broadcast that actually shapes your life. The 5 minutes of focused visualization aren't the main issue. It's the 16 waking hours of unguarded, unconscious broadcasting that really set the tone. Try this. Sit in silence and attempt to hold no thought for 60 seconds. Watch how quickly your mind floods with to-do lists, memories, images, and worries. That's the engine that's been creating your reality. Mental sovereignty is not about forcing that engine to stop. It's about seeing the thoughts as programs and choosing a different instruction the moment they appear, not suppressing. Redirecting. To reprogram the subconscious, you need to work with the levers it actually responds to. Relaxation, because a calm nervous system opens the gate. Emotion, because feeling, not logic, is the language the subconscious understands. Embodiment, because your body is where old experiences and reactions are stored. Energy, because it's the bridge into the next stage of consciousness. Thoughts by themselves don't reliably move reality. Thought plus emotion in a regulated body inside a coherent energetic field. That's when your signal starts to reshape your world. Give yourself a test. Pick 1 hour tomorrow. For that hour, guard your mind like it's your most valuable asset. The moment a limiting thought pops up. This always goes wrong. I'm not good enough. This won't work. Flip it. Choose a more truthful, empowering statement and actually feel it land in your body. Stay with it until your shoulders drop, your breath slows, your chest loosens. Keep the channel locked for 60 minutes straight. Most people can't last 5 minutes. Yeah, that's not a failure. That's data. If you can't consciously steer your mind for 1 hour, then it's clear who's been steering the rest of your day. The autopilot. This is why so many seekers plateau. They jump from teacher to teacher, method to method, chasing the missing secret. They don't need more information. They need integration. Moving the idea out of their head and into their nervous system, their habits, their baseline signal. When that baseline changes, everything else does too. Results stop wobbling. Synchronicities stop feeling rare and start clustering. The delay between intention and reflection gets shorter. Reality becomes less of a random movie you're watching and more of a living feedback loop you're consciously directing. One thought, one feeling, one moment of sovereignty at a time. You reach a point where life stops feeling like you're forcing outcomes and starts feeling like you're tuning them. That's the threshold. On the other side is stage 4, energy mastery. This is where you stop just talking about energy and start actually directing it. Your signal becomes unmistakable, and reality begins responding in near real time. Stage 4 is where everything you've learned stops being theory and turns into direct experience. You don't just think about energy anymore. You feel it. You don't just believe you're powerful. You know you are. The invisible becomes obvious. You feel energy moving through your body and in the space around you. You sense a person's mood before they say a word. You walk into a room and instantly know if something is off. You've already seen your focus shift outcomes, change someone's state, or pull a moment toward you just with intention. Stage 4 is electric and intoxicating. You can walk into a room and the atmosphere shifts. You glance across a space, focus on someone, and they suddenly turn. Your presence can send calm through a group. Or tension. If you're careless, you can feel power in your hands, your gaze, your voice. But here's the catch. You're still learning to steer it. You're broadcasting constantly, even when you don't mean to. That's what makes this stage both incredible and dangerous. You're not just a physical body. You're a stack of overlapping energy fields. Physical, etheric, emotional, mental. All interacting. The etheric body sits closest to your skin, the energetic blueprint that keeps your physical body alive. Imbalances show up here before they become symptoms. Beyond that is your emotional, or astral, body. The field where you feel your emotions and pick up everyone else's. That's why some people walk into a room and you instantly feel lighter, and others feel like they suck the oxygen out. Then there's the mental body. The realm of thought, forms, and focus. When you can't stop thinking about someone and they suddenly text you, that's not random. That's mental energy bridging distance. In stage 4, you start feeling all these layers directly. You know when your field is expanded or collapsed, clear or cluttered. You realize that true healing isn't just about fixing the body. It's about balancing the energy that shapes the body. Every interaction becomes an energetic transaction. It's not just words. It's a flow of charge between people. Some conversations leave you inspired and alive. That's resonance. Their frequency lifts yours. Others leave you heavy, anxious, or exhausted for no clear reason. Those are unconscious energy takers. They're not villains. They're empty and drawing from any open source. Once you see this, you can't unsee it. You start tracking who nourishes your energy and who drains it. And you stop leaking power into people, places, and memories that don't deserve front row access. This is when you learn to protect your field. You cut cords, pull your energy back, and seal your aura. Not because you're afraid, but because you're finally aware. You shift from being a sponge to being a conductor. As your energy strengthens, natural human abilities begin to wake up. Empathy becomes more than "I feel for you." It becomes "I feel with you." Crowds can overwhelm you, not because you're fragile, but because you're tuning into hundreds of fields at once. Your intuition sharpens. You know things before they happen, without proof. Your subconscious reads patterns faster than your mind can analyze them. Your influence grows. Your presence alone shifts the outcome of conversations, rooms, even opportunities. Manifestation speeds up because you're not just thinking about what you want. You're embodying its frequency. Reality responds fast when your field and your desire are in sync. For some, energy healing awakens. You place your hand over pain and it eases. You focus on someone's well-being and they feel warmth, tingling, or calm. It's not fantasy. It's energy physics. So why isn't this God mode? Because in stage 4, you have power but not full sovereignty. You can move energy, but energy can also move you. Someone gets angry and your field collapses before you even realize what happened. You enter a toxic space and your mood nosedives. You try to help and end up absorbing someone else's pain. You heal others but walk away drained. Stage 4 is power without full discipline. Like being handed lightning before you've learned insulation. And there's one more piece almost no one talks about. Once your field gets strong, you become visible, not just to people, but to the collective field itself. To the parts of the system that benefit from humans staying numb and energetically dependent. At stage 4, you shine like a flare in a dark sky, which is exactly why the next stage isn't about more power. It's about learning how to stand in that light without burning yourself out. You reach a point where the matrix starts to notice you. The world feels your presence, You're strong enough to make waves, but not yet steady enough to stand against the pushback. That's why Stage 5 exists. Stage 4 gives you power. Stage 5 teaches you how to keep it. Through energetic defense, spiritual protection, and learning how to walk with light when shadow rises to meet it. Stage 5 is the battleground. If you've ever felt like reality itself started pushing back the moment you began to rise, like unseen forces suddenly blocked your progress, you're here. This is the most critical stage of all. Most people turn around here. They burn out, get confused, or quietly give up and decide, maybe I'm just not meant for this. But if you understand what's really happening, you move through it. And you don't go back. When you hit this stage, strange patterns show up. The abilities you had in Stage 4 glitch or disappear. People you love start arguing with you, judging you, or pulling away. Life feels like it's collapsing all at once. Random setbacks, money issues, health scares, relationship breakdowns. You feel targeted. Not by chance, but almost like it's coordinated. That's because your frequency has finally risen high enough to affect the collective field. What some call the system, the matrix, the programmed reality. You're beginning to access levels of consciousness the system can't easily control. You're powerful, but you're not fully protected yet. That's exactly when resistance hits. The first attack is energy parasites. People around you start pulling on your energy. Through drama, guilt, criticism, endless crises. They're not villains. They're being used by the collective to pull you back into the old frequency. Your rise threatens the balance they're used to, so they instinctively try to anchor you where you were. That's why awakening often costs you friendships and even family dynamics. The second is system resistance. Suddenly, everything breaks at once. Your car, your tech, your health, your job. Unexpected bills appear. This is the matrix trying to shove you back into survival mode. If it can keep you stressed about money, comfort, and safety, you'll stop focusing on consciousness and go back to being predictable. The third is internal doubt. This one is the most dangerous because it sounds exactly like you. Maybe I made this up. Maybe I'm not special. Maybe I should just go back to normal. That voice isn't your true self. It's the old programming of the lower stages, trying to lull you back to sleep. This all happens now because earlier stages aren't a threat. You're just learning. At Stage 4, you have power but little control. At Stage 5, you begin to link into something beyond the human field, the unified field the cosmic grid mystics have spoken about for ages. It's the same threshold Buddha called temptation, Jesus called the desert test, and mystics call the dark night of the soul. When your light gets strong, the shadow has to respond. The system can't actually destroy you. It can only make you forget. Reality is frequency. When your vibration rises, the dense field around you destabilizes and floods you with counter frequencies. Fear, chaos, crisis. The goal is simple. Drag you back into doubt and scarcity. If you don't know the game, you think you've failed. If you recognize it, the spell cracks. To survive Stage 5, first, recognize. Awareness dissolves most of its power. When everything crashes right after a breakthrough, name it. This is a Stage 5 test. I see it. That shifts you from victim to observer. Second, don't fight. Fighting feeds it. Let the chaos move through like wind through an open window. Breathe, watch, redirect. This is energetic Aikido, not a fistfight. Third, anchor beyond yourself. Your personal will isn't enough here. Connect to something larger. To source, to the field, to the intelligence that made you. Stop trying to protect your little flame alone. Align with the fire that burns in everything. There's a moment when your own strength is no longer enough. Yet something bigger keeps you moving. You stop reacting to attacks and start anchoring into something deeper. and almost instantly, the chaos breaks. The doubt falls away. The people who fought you either rise with you or quietly disappear. What's left feels like a peace you can't put into words. That peace is the first taste of Stage 6 consciousness. Unity, connection, the dissolving of separation. It feels like enlightenment. It feels like coming home. But as beautiful as it is, Stage 6 is still not the final destination. It's the last and most convincing illusion before God mode. And only those who make it through the battleground of Stage 5 ever discover what lies beyond. Stage 6 is called the final illusion. This is where mystics get lost, where many teachers stop evolving, and where enlightened beings disappear into bliss and never fully return. Most spiritual paths point to this state as the ultimate goal, the dissolving of ego, the recognition of oneness, the experience of yourself as infinite consciousness. You're in Stage 6 if you've had states where your sense of me completely disappeared, where you felt yourself as everything and nothing at the same time, where observer, observed, and observation merged into one, where time had no meaning, and you knew, deep in your bones, that you are not this body, not these thoughts, not this personality, but pure awareness temporarily looking through human eyes. Stage 6 is profound. It's what traditions call samadhi, satori, mystical union, cosmic consciousness. Even one glimpse of it changes you forever. You can never fully go back to believing you're just a separate person grinding through life. But here's what most people miss. Stage 6 is not complete. It's a peak state, not a fully integrated way of being. If you mistake the peak for the summit, you spend the rest of your life trying to get back there. Chasing that one experience instead of moving toward what comes after. At Stage 6, you transcend, and transcendence feels like freedom. But it can secretly become another trap. You realize, I am not this body. I'm the awareness behind it. I am not my thoughts. I'm the sky, not the clouds. I'm not this story or this identity. Those are temporary masks consciousness wears. You feel yourself as the source behind all things, the unified field expressing through countless forms. All of that is true. You are infinite consciousness expressing through human form. There is only one field. But the trap comes when you interpret that truth as a reason to escape your humanity. You decide the goal is to leave the body, transcend the physical, dissolve the ego, and stay above the mess of human life. So you try to hold the transcendent state permanently. You meditate for hours to stay in egolessness. You detach from money, relationships, responsibilities. You withdraw from the world, floating in bliss while your actual life starts falling apart. This is why some enlightened masters end up unable to function in the everyday world. Why some live in poverty, can't maintain healthy relationships, or need others to handle their basic needs. They've transcended the human so completely that they can't operate as a human. That's not God mode. That's spiritual bypass. It's awakening without embodiment. You can see this pattern in history and today. Monks and mystics who can hold cosmic consciousness on a cushion, but lose it the moment they step into normal life. Modern teachers who touch unity during retreat, breathwork, plant medicine, or a near-death experience, then spend years telling the story, without actually living it in traffic, in conflict, in paying bills, in raising kids. In all these cases, Stage 6 is disembodied consciousness. You've remembered your true nature as infinite awareness, but lost the bridge back to physical reality. You're awake, but not grounded, unified, but not effective, enlightened, but not empowered. Stage 7 is about building that bridge. It's about keeping the awareness of Stage 6 while fully functioning in Stages 1 through 5, being infinite and finite, divine and human, transcendent and embodied. At the same time, that's integration. That's what as above, so below actually means, not choosing one side, but holding both. Here's how you know you're stuck in stage 6 instead of mastering it. You've had powerful unity experiences during meditation, ceremony, or nature. But you can't maintain that awareness in daily life. The moment you deal with money, conflict, or responsibility, you fall back into old patterns. Or you can hold the stage 6 awareness, but only by withdrawing from the world. You need silence, isolation, and zero demands. The second real life knocks on the door, the state collapses. In both cases, you've touched the peak. But you haven't turned it into a permanent altitude. Stage 7 isn't about escaping the human game. It's about playing it with full awareness of who you really are. You can get stuck in 2 different versions of almost awakened. In the first, you've had a huge peak experience of oneness that you keep chasing but can't stabilize. In the second, you've learned to hold a very peaceful and transcendent state, but only by retreating from ordinary life and avoiding engagement. Neither of these is God mode. Stage 7 is something else entirely, permanent and integrated. You keep the awareness of stage 6. You know yourself as infinite consciousness. While you're fully immersed in stage 1 physical reality, in stage 7, you're enlightened and functional, divine and human, transcendent and practical. You can work, build, love, create, and deal with challenge while never forgetting that it's all consciousness playing with itself. You engage in relationships, money, conflict, creativity, and responsibility without collapsing back into the old story of I'm a separate self who can be threatened or diminished. You use your personality as a tool instead of an identity. You can play the game of life with full commitment while knowing, deep down, that it's a game. That's the difference. That's what makes stage 7 God mode instead of just enlightenment. There's another way people get trapped at stage 6, the teaching trap. Someone has a massive unity experience. Ego death, cosmic consciousness, mystical revelation. And it changes everything for them. Naturally, they feel called to share it. They start teaching others how to reach that state. They write books, give talks, run retreats, build communities around helping people dissolve the ego and transcend the illusion. But in doing that, they often freeze their own growth. Their identity, income, and purpose become wrapped around being the enlightened teacher. They can't openly say, "This isn't the final level. There's more beyond what I've been teaching," without shaking their entire platform. Admitting that stage 6 isn't the end would mean confessing that they haven't finished the journey either, so they keep presenting transcendence as the ultimate goal. Their students reach stage 6, taste that same bliss and oneness, and then they get stuck too. Convinced they've arrived, whole spiritual communities plateau right there. Teacher at stage 6, students at stage 6, everyone agreeing they've reached enlightenment while no one moves on to true integration. Here's the warning. Stage 6 will feel like the answer to everything. The peace, the unity, the end of the separate self that's been causing your suffering. It's all there. But if you stop there, something subtle but serious happens. You become less effective in the physical world. You may feel at peace, but you struggle to create. You feel one with everything, but can't focus your energy to shape anything specific. You've dissolved the ego, but you've also dissolved your ability to choose, decide, and act with precision. You're spiritually advanced but practically powerless. You understand ultimate reality, but you can't consciously steer it. God mode demands something that almost sounds like a betrayal of traditional spirituality. It asks you to do the opposite of what most paths call liberation. Not escape, not withdrawal, not permanent detachment. It asks you to come back. Fully, fiercely, consciously. This is the secret that mystery schools encoded in symbols, that some masters lived but rarely explained plainly, and that completely rewires how you think about awakening. Stage 7, God Mode, is the only stage that offers real, consistent, embodied mastery, not temporary gifts, not occasional breakthroughs, not just a brilliant understanding, not even ongoing transcendent awareness, real power, the ability to shape reality at every level while remaining inwardly free. You're in Stage 7 when you can maintain cosmic consciousness while you're answering emails, paying bills, calming a child, or negotiating a deal, when you can move through all 7 stages at once. Body, mind, energy, polarity, testing, unity, and beyond. Without inner conflict, when you have abilities and full command of them, when your internal freedom no longer depends on external circumstances. Stage 7 isn't about transcendence. It's about integration. It's not about leaving the body. It's about inhabiting it completely. It's not about erasing the ego. It's about mastering it as a precise tool. It's not about escaping the illusion. It's about becoming the conscious creator of it. This is what the great masters actually embodied at their peak. Jesus in his teaching years, Buddha walking among people after his awakening, true Hermetic adepts and alchemists. They weren't just serene. They were powerful. They could do things other people called miracles, but from their perspective, they were simply operating at a level where the rules of physical reality were flexible, where energy bent to intention, where the world was clearly recognized as consciousness in motion. Here's the sacred paradox every genuine mystery school pointed to. You don't become divine by ditching your humanity. You become divine by fully embodying it. Look at the masters who changed history. Not the ones who vanished into caves forever, but the ones who taught, healed, confronted systems, created movements, and left a legacy. They held cosmic awareness and also functioned in the marketplace, around families, inside societies. They weren't trying to escape the physical plane. They were mastering it from a higher vantage point. They weren't trying to kill the ego. They were using it as a handle that consciousness could grip to move in the world. In Stage 7, you don't discard the earlier stages, you integrate them. Stage 1, your physical body becomes a well-tuned instrument instead of a prison. Stage 2, you work with duality consciously, using polarity, contrast, and opposites as creative tools. Stage 3, your thinking is precise and intentional. You can direct thoughts instead of being dragged by them. Stage 4, you can feel, direct, and protect energy at will. Stage 5, you stay connected to the larger grid of intelligence even under pressure. Stage 6, you remember, constantly, that you are source awareness experiencing itself through form. All of these operate together, at once, without contradiction. That's wholeness. That's God mode. So how do you move toward this in real life? The first shift, stop trying to escape the physical. Most spiritual approaches point upward, out of the body, out of the world. Stage 7 asks you to go inward and downward instead. Your body isn't a trap. It's the interface. The physical dimension isn't a meaningless illusion. It's a high-level training ground. Instead of using meditation to float away, use it to drop fully into your body. Feel your breath as raw life force, your heartbeat, the tingling in your hands and feet. The more completely present you are in physical experience, the more influence you have over it. The masters who could heal by touch weren't checked out. They were hyper-present. Their consciousness was so fully inside the physical that they could work with its energetic blueprint directly. The second shift, integrate shadow with light. Stage 6 tries to stay pure. All light, no darkness. All love, no mess. Stage 7 understands that everything in you is energy. And energy is neutral until you direct it. Ego, anger, fear, desire, grief, drive, even your ugly impulses. None of it is a mistake. Ego focuses consciousness so it can move in a straight line. Anger can become clean boundary and decisive action. Fear can become an indicator of your growth edge. Desire can become a compass that points toward what your soul came to explore. In stage 7, you stop trying to delete these parts of yourself. You learn to channel them. That's why a stage 7 being is often more impactful than a stage 6 one who's peaceful but passive. They have access to the full spectrum of human energy and can wield all of it consciously. The third shift, live as source expressing through form. At stage 6 you realize, I am awareness witnessing this human. At stage 7 you realize, I am the source that chose this exact human experience on purpose. You're not a small self trying to reach some distant god. You're not a fragment trying to get back to the whole. You are the whole ocean expressing as this particular wave. This name, this body, this lifetime. The wave doesn't need to return to the ocean. It already is the ocean in motion. In the same way, you don't need to earn divinity or chase it. You are it, right now, disguised as a person figuring things out when this lands. Not as a concept, but as your living reality. Everything shifts. You stop begging the universe to give you things and realize you are the creative intelligence behind the scenes. You don't chase abundance, you express it. You don't plead for healing. You recognize yourself as the healing field. You don't think of yourself as a human with spiritual powers. You see yourself as source consciousness, temporarily playing the role of a human. With every power potentially online because you are the power. To begin building stage 7 capacity, try a simple integration practice. Sit comfortably and take 3 slow breaths. First, feel stage 1, your body, its weight, temperature, sensations. Fully present in the physical. Second, notice stage 2, the opposites within you. Light and dark, courage and fear, action and stillness. And allow them all to exist. Third, observe stage 3. Watch your thoughts arise and see that you can choose which ones to feed. Fourth, sense. Stage 4. Feel the subtle energy in and around your body, your field extending a little beyond your skin. Fifth, touch stage 5. Imagine or sense the invisible web connecting you to everyone and everything. Sixth, open to stage 6. Expand awareness beyond your body. I am the consciousness in which all of this is appearing. Finally, invite stage 7. I am that same infinite consciousness, choosing to express as this specific human, here and now, with the power to shape experience at every level. Hold that for as long as you can. Do this regularly, not to escape your life, but to inhabit it differently. You're training yourself to operate on multiple layers at once, to remember who you are while staying fully in the game. Over time, it stops being a practice and becomes your baseline. Now zoom out and look at the full map. Stage 1, the physical prison. Stage 2, the awakening to patterns and duality. Stage 3, mental sovereignty. Stage 4, energy mastery. Stage 5, the battleground. Stage 6, the final illusion of transcendence. And stage 7, God mode. Integrated, embodied source awareness. Every earlier stage is necessary. None of them are enough on their own. Most people will touch 1 or 2 of these phases and settle. Some will reach stage 3 and spend the rest of their lives learning without applying. Others will love the rush of stage 4 powers but never build discipline. A few will be tested in stage 5 and turn back. Some will land in stage 6, feel they've made it, and slowly drift away from real-world effectiveness. If you're still reading, something in you is wired differently, not because you're better than anyone else, but because you're unwilling to stay half awake. Your next steps are simple and uncomfortable. Be honest about where you are. Respect every stage you've lived. Practice the tools that move you forward and commit deeply to integration instead of escape. You are not a human trying to become divine. You are divinity itself, temporarily playing human. remembering itself layer by layer. The 7 stages aren't ladders to some faraway heaven. They're veils being pulled back from what you already are. The question isn't whether you'll get there. At the deepest level, you're already there. The question is how fully and how bravely you'll let yourself live from that truth.